is funk. Thoughts deep, boys steeped in the depths that he sunk. Big stress, depressed in the middle of fall. Sky gray, I late in the thick of it all. I wonder, how long can a human survive just staying alive or carrying the rest of the tribe? Waiting for the day to arrive or struggling dies, and I be doing way, way more than getting by. So why? Cop myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, cop myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Realize life is so much more than just living a day. Every day I can sit and reflect and reconnect to myself and all that I've been given. See, giving up is not an option. So while I'm looking at gray skies, I'll be adopting a new way to deal with a test. Lord, relieve me of stress. The rain be looking like my blessings dropping. And so I cop myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, here we go. Yeah, let's do this. Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3. In times of test, let no harm beset me, oh my Lord, oh my Lord.
Well, folks, hope you enjoyed the show. Dave and I really appreciated you being with us. I think it was one of our best shows. So we'll be seeing you next week. Take care of yourself. And no, we are here. And this guy is okay with the Eagles losing today, I suppose.
Just a game. Just a game.
Right. But there are some more serious things to talk about. Yes, this is Divided We Stand. If you're unfamiliar with the channel, there you go. If you're unfamiliar with the channel, you can find us on Facebook. The group is called the Divided We Stand group. Look for us and become a member. We're steadily approaching 1,600 members, so we hope that you'll be a part of that and push us over to 1,600. Also, you can find us on this channel on YouTube. That is Divided We Stand. There are quite a few channels that say Divided We Stand, so you're going to have to kind of filter through them, but we're there. And we ask that you subscribe. We are not monetized in any way, which means you won't be seeing any advertisements, which is always nice. And you can be rest assured that Dave and I are not looking for any money from you all. especially since Dave is really rich. He doesn't really need the money. So, but I am not rich, but I have no avarice, so I don't want any money from anybody. Just want your attention and your commiseration. So, hello all. Let's go to that guy. Remember that girl? Ted Bessel and Marlo Thomas? Well, this is this guy right here, and that would be our David Price. And there he is. Dave, what? Jesus Christ, I can't get my shit together. Oh, there we go. All right, Dave, what are you going to complain about today?
I'm not going to complain about anything. You've only made 4 mistakes, and that's a
Okay.
very good since we started. Okay. Let's start with an announcement. The United States of America is an authoritarian fascist country. End of tale, end of story. We're no longer on the verge. We're no longer on the way. People say, well, we're not Nazi Germany. That is true. But we have a president who, I'm not sure if he wants to be a fascist or an authoritarian. I think, honestly, he wants to be he's a wannabe dictator, but he has plunged the country. We are not a functioning democracy as long as Donald Trump is president and the MAGA GOP control the Senate and the House, and you have 6 conservative judges on the Supreme Court, 3 who have no business walking in the doors of the Supreme Court, let alone being there. So, as usual, but with a little bit of a different spin, maybe, I picked this, I always do, 3 things that now will show that Trump is an authoritarian. And then, like you always get the chance, Brian, you pick the one we want to start with. So, first of all, what did he do last week? Well, he, excuse me, he issued a directive with a fancy name of NSPM7. But what does that mean? And basically what it says is it's an order countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. Okay, there are a couple problems with that. The domestic terrorists all happen to be in his camp, many of them in ICE.
Agreed.
Or in Congress or in the Senate or wherever you find these domestic terrorists these days. And organized political violence, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard it at this point. So, but if you look at the wording, which I did, it is so broad that basically what it says is this. Trump can decide who is a terrorist and why they are a terrorist. That's it. End of story, end of tale. So that's one thing he did. Another thing, of course, we're in the middle of a shutdown. We may talk a little bit more about that later and what it means to D.C. or to the nation itself. But of course, Trump, being Trump, comes out and says, well, you know what? It's a great opportunity. So what I'll do is I'll mass fire federal workers during the shutdown. Despite the fact that he has no legal basis to do that, it is illegal, it is unconstitutional, but that doesn't matter anymore. Okay, so we've got him. And of course, he is saying that, well, if you are a Democrat, no, he's going beyond it. If you do not acknowledge me as the person who knows all, then you've got to go. So that we'll be watching that closely. And then, of course, he continues to escalate the deployment of federal forces around the country. D.C. was first. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that.
And when you say federal forces, of those federal forces, are we talking about the ones who are somewhat professional, or are we talking about the ones with the masks?
Well, we're talking about both, and that'll come into play. But really, again, for the nation, okay, it's different for Washington, D.C. I don't think they'll send FBI to the other places. So basically, it will be some combination of National Guard, who are not the enemy, by the way, and ICE, who are the enemy, by the way. So we have the, where do you want to start? You want to start with the America Under Siege? You want to start with the dissent?
I think that's a good place to start, Dave, because if you look at the image thumbnail for our show tonight, it basically shows America is like the Titanic going under, and I think that's
right. Okay.
That's really appropriate. And,
so where do you want to start? Which one do you want to start with?
America is under siege. This is a fascist country. We can't fool ourselves. It certainly is. And I think what you were saying, Dave, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, is that
Right.
nothing good of this nothing good can come out of this when you have a fascist country.
Well, let's put it like this: nothing good can come out of it for the good people. Certainly,
Right.
many things can come out for the bad people. We've said it before, but it just boggles my mind.
We're in
That-
trouble here if we're Antifa, right?
I
Don't need somebody to pick. If he can go to Portland, why can't he go to Bridgeton? You know what I mean? Go to you first. You're in Arlington.
I support Antifa, and we'll talk about that tonight
Okay.
too. But as I say, Donald Trump right now is, I believe, mentally incompetent to be president.
Agreed.
I believe that he's physically deteriorating before our very eyes.
Agreed.
I think that he's a prime candidate for the 25th Amendment.
Agreed.
And none of that is going to happen right now,
Agreed.
tonight. But one of the things that we talk a lot down here as the resistance gets more and more active in the DC area is, keep the pressure on, because he does not react well to pressure. He just doesn't.
Right.
He's not used to it. Imagine, you've got, 22, 23 cabinet members sitting there praising you in a meeting. And then the audacity of some of the American people to say, as I heard a large chant today, Trump sucks, Trump sucks, Trump sucks. So I think he's bouncing back, between.
Well, flattery gets you everywhere with Trump. That's the bottom line.
But again, what I don't understand about people who do that is it does for the moment, but there's no loyalty to Donald Trump. You could give him $1 million, Brian, today, and then do something that he doesn't like or feels wasn't right tomorrow, and that $1 million in his mind doesn't exist.
Right.
His world, and we've been talking, his world is about this. It's what he can see in front of him. Somebody else said the world is his mirror. That's what he sees, what he expects to see. I think of the three that we talked about first. The one that probably disturbs me the most is this idea of countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. And of course, kind of jokingly, Veg put up about the Antifa idea. But let's look at that. Donald Trump either doesn't care or doesn't believe, and neither do his followers, Antifa is not an organization. Let me say that again. There is no such thing as Antifa. Antifa is a philosophy. It is not, there are no Antifa meetings.
Right.
There are no Antifa groups.
Only in the minds of the Republicans.
Correct. Because they couldn't conceive of people having a philosophy. They're a member of a cult. Their philosophy comes from their fearless leader. So when he talks about Antifa, it's funny. Now, if you really want to know, something I'm working on now. What one of the big Antifa groups were when they were there? The Von Trapp kids in Sound of Music. They were anti-fascist, right?
Right. They sang Edelweiss, right?
Yeah, and so they're Antifa. Under the definition, every single World War II veteran who lived through that conflict and fought against Hitler, in Europe, against Mussolini in Europe, against the Japanese Empire in the Pacific, were Antifa. So, but what it is, it's a good whipping boy or a good whipping person. And
effective, Dave, because that's the thing that's most striking is how effective. Right. It's kind of like no new taxes. It's just so effective in saying one line. And we tend to think that most people think rationally and pretty much like, no, it is nothing like that. These people are the dumbest motherfuckers around. I'm sorry, I've had it with them. They know the difference between right and wrong, and if they don't, they are that stupid, and now they're dangerous.
Well, they are dangerous. I would take a little bit of issue of what you said. I think there are more groups than just the stupid, but there's a large percentage who, depending on how you're defining it, are either stupid or ignorant. So that's a huge percentage. They are in a cult, although they deny it.
Right.
You could take any psychological profile of a cult, You could take every psychological profile of a cult leader and overlay them, and you have Trump as cult leader, and you have his followers as in a cult. But I think there's some other groups. I think there's a group, basically the 1%, not all of them, but many of them who realize that they'll come out on top, and they're not stupid. The Heritage Foundation is not stupid.
No, they're not stupid.
Evil, maybe. And the irony of all this, also you have the Christian nationals who have the, if you're a Christian nationalist, you ain't getting into heaven. There ain't a heaven. But even if there were, you're not getting into it. Yeah, Bill says, if you aren't anti-fascist, what are you? Well, if you're not anti-fascist, there's only one place. You're pro-fascist. You know, if you're going to put them in two groups. Now, again, we talk a lot, Brian, and I think it's always important to do that. We are not a half-half country. We're a third country.
You've been saying that, yes.
And that's my belief, and I haven't really found anything to disprove that.
But isn't in a certain sense, though, because that third is so uninvolved and ambivalent, in a sense we are half and half, because you can't even count them.
Yes.
They're not going anywhere. They never have. They never will.
The only thing is this. Looking at Trump, I don't think since the day he took office for this second term that he's gained one follower. I really don't.
Right.
Whatever he has, he brought with him. I think he has lost some. And that third is the area where we can maybe be effective. We don't have to draw a whole lot of them out, but if we can get a few of them out. Now, originally, Brian, you were one of the first to say this. One of the first to say it on the show. It's one of the first to say it everywhere. And I didn't really disagree with you, but I wasn't so sure. You said, you would always say, if we have an election, if we have an election. I am now on that, if we have an election.
The only question now is, will it be an unfair election or no election? It cannot be a fair election anymore. Not when they're in power.
Not as we can, as we can envision it.
And when we say fair election, Dave, you consider we have 50 states. So as long as 17 or 18 states, you don't have to do it in all states. For example, you don't have to worry about it in Utah. We know what's going to happen.
We know, what's going to be there. Now, I've already voted. We have an off-year election here in Virginia. And one of the things, Virginia may be southern, but it's the northernmost southern state. And it's got a lot of
David Price's
very intelligent people in this area. So one of the things that they do very well, Brian, is their early voting. Judy and I went. It took us once we entered the building, it was on the third floor, so it took most of the time. It took us longer to get to the third floor to vote than it did to vote. They make it very handy, very easy. And of course, what we see in other states is not that way. We're seeing a lot of states, well, let's be a little bit more specific. We're seeing southern and Midwestern states purging the voting records again, making it difficult. In Texas, I'm probably off on this number, but I think at one point when they started closing where you could vote, and I think it was like 65 miles they had to go to vote, So again, what you have,
at least for I know for dropping off them in the mail, there were only a few places you could go, and you had to haul ass for hours.
And that's the thing. And a lot of people, it is difficult. Now, we're retired, so we travel more than many people.
Right.
But we've been away now for, I think we're sitting down talking about you. I think this will be the 8th election that we've not, 7th or 8th, we weren't really sure, election out of the past 15. So let's say it's 7. That means, almost 50% of the time we've voted early, and it really works. Another thing is, you do vote here. You don't vote by machine. You have a ballot, you fill it out, and then it goes into a feeder system, which then is recorded. So to really tamper with the votes here, you can't. There's no way that you can really tamper with the voting machines in Virginia. You can mess with the tabulation machines.
Right, and there's a difference between those two. We have to remember that.
Yeah. So and there is. But anyway, this idea that, and it bothers people. Oh no, we're America. No, we're not. Today I was having a talk with someone who is trans, and she said she's military too, or was former military, and she said, when I hear this, it just irks me that America was ever great. It wasn't. And it wasn't for everyone. It wasn't for the majority at some point. I mean, think about it, Brian. I don't think we think enough about this. There was slavery, and women couldn't vote when America was founded.
Right.
Now, we have the purest 250 years. We got to keep the Constitution. Bullshit. Name one other thing, and I don't think anyone can, name one other thing that we do the same 250 years later. Not one thing.
Right.
Now, but see, people are so, they want to, elevate. They want to feel good. We'll use football today. You and thousands of others who follow the Eagles, you're bummed out.
Right.
And that's because,
we're sport with losing, number one. I mean, winning, and then the way they lost was just horrible.
It was. I mean, I watched the game too. But the idea of it is, as I say, that's a little bit different than sitting back, and you couldn't really help the Eagles today, okay? But you can help defeat Donald Trump. Right. That's the difference, okay?
And that's more important. I mean, you've said it right, Dave, when we were discussing this prior to the show, is that we do get involved in games, and it really does create strong emotions. But when you use this part of your brain, the frontal cortex, you realize that it's really not important. It does not change my life one bit.
No.
Although what you're talking about does.
But it is, Brian, it is when your team wins on Sunday, if it's football, or, Monday is a little brighter. I mean, it is, okay? Global. North Virginia is purple, South red. Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I will say this, two things. Washington, D.C., and this is statistically accurate. Of those registered voters, 97% are Democrat in Washington, D.C., and 3% are Republicans. And the other day, I had a conversation with one of those in that 3%, which maybe we'll get a chance to talk about tonight. So that's D.C. Of course, it spills over here. We're somewhere between 81, depending on who you believe, 81 and 86% in Arlington, which is the county where we live, Democrat. So one of the things is we don't really live where it is the U.S. I mean, what we have is this Democratic haven, not like when I lived for 59 and a half years where you do.
Right.
And I think I would be safe in this. If anybody listening from the Bridgeton area wants to dispute it, I certainly would welcome. Over the past, I don't want to say, well, I've been gone 15 years, and not because I'm gone, which is it is much more Republican, that area, than it was in the 70s, 80s, and on up. Once upon a time, it was all Republican. There was not a Democratic city council or mayor until the late 70s, early 80s.
Well, Dave, can I ask you, interject?
Yeah.
Why is it that this, well, we went to the congressional district, but even Bridgeton itself, if we have so many minorities and there's poverty, why do Republicans seem to do well?
Wow. Okay. So again, I'm going to, let's see. How do I look at this? Well, for one thing, and this is getting worse, you realize that if the vote were tomorrow or next day, or maybe even when it comes up, you will not get Hispanics and Latinos going to the poll.
They're probably afraid to go.
Of course they're afraid to go.
Right.
Of course they're afraid to go. I mean, I would be too. It was really a heartbreaking discussion. I had about a week and a half ago with a young man, really energetic, really nice, who was a waiter at one of my favorite eateries, Immigrant Food. And we talked about it. And this is how he summed up his story. He said, when I leave in the morning, I'm worried. When I come here, I'm not. When I go back to home, I'm worried until I get in my door. So that whole time. And that's pretty much it. Now, getting back to how does that happen? Traditionally, a lot did not register. We do have people who, are in, what would you say, legal limbo. So that's part of it. I think, in general, cities are democratic, and there are a lot of people in the cities, but there's more people in the country in Cumberland County.
Right.
Now, and again, it gets to the quality of candidate, who's known.
Are the I mean, I have been told from people who would be considered a minority that, I ask, why don't we get more votes? And this is just some people, like, for example, with Kamala Harris, they said that a lot of, for example, African-American males do not want to vote for Kamala Harris because they don't like seeing someone like her, a strong woman, in control.
I think that's part of it. I saw what Judy put.
I don't know if that's true, but
I think there's some. I think there's some truth to it. Judy put
one
up
of your old
which
students told me that too, by the way.
I think she put up something that's pretty important. The Latin majority in the Bridgeton is Catholic, and if you are Catholic and if you take to abortion as an issue, you really can't vote for a Democrat. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that seems like you're voting against your own self-interest, right?
Right.
But we have lots of proof of that. Every poor person who votes for a Republican is voting against their own self-interest, because not that the Democrats don't take money and that kind of thing, but the oligarchs definitely control. Let me do this. The oligarchs control the Republican Party, but they allow the appearance of MAGA to seem like they're doing it. They're not. Trump could not care about another human being at all, and anyone who thinks he does care about you is completely
right. And that's a very. I mean, we just kind of like gloss over that, I should say. Right. But if you just think about it, he doesn't care about any human being,
No.
and that says so much right there that you could just die and he would not care.
He does not care. Now, it is funny, living in Washington, D.C., as I said, 4.6 miles from the White House. I get even more, well, I don't know if it's more frequently because I used to work down there. But anyway, I get in frequently. And every so often, the place where you get off, the nearest metro stop is McPherson Square, and then it's a long block and through Lafayette Park, and then you're at the White House, right? Mm-hmm. And the number of times, Brian, when I'm walking up, I said, wait a minute. There's a convicted criminal in the White House. How did that happen? And I mean, we could go through it all.
Right.
But, and the past couple of weeks, I've had more conversations with what I would consider to be good MAGA people, if there is that category. One was a black woman, very, very intelligent, really nice. I almost fell down when I found out she was, because I knew her before political beliefs came out. So I said, I got to ask you, how this happened? She said, I don't feel the Democrats have represented our people. Well, okay, but you think Trump does? I mean, I didn't say anything, right? Mm-hmm. Another gentleman was the one I was telling you about in the 3% Republicans. Really nice guy. We're sitting there in Barnes and Noble doing work, and we started talking. I said, "How does that?" He says, "Well, I'm an ex-Marine," as if that was why he was. A couple others, as long as politics didn't come up, it would have been fine. But politics will come up. It is there. Judy, you're absolutely right.
And that tells you something about religion in general. It's all patriarchal.
Well,
and these are some of the problems that come from that.
Yeah. In fact, what's interesting is, and this is, they used to say those with the best weapons win, and there's some truth to that over history. But also, unfortunately, for whatever reason, and I'm not intelligent enough or smart enough or researched enough to know, the matriarchal societies, which we've had a number of, uh, never really got moving outside of a small area. Of course, Cleopatra was a force. A lot of African communities were led by women, but it was a rarity. And when you think about it, I mean, well, think about it. If you say, and I've done this all the time, if you say to someone, "Well, God, she," it just throws them for a loop. I mean,
Right.
it's even hard. It's even hard for people to even vision it, or even better is to say, God, it. And if there
Right,
are,
but just I mean, just from a biological standpoint, where men have more testosterone, they're more aggressive,
right,
that leads itself to that type of thinking. Is that God's a badass, you know what I mean, and you want to have that tendency of being
correct.
full of seminal strength, so to
The only
speak.
thing that I try to point out to those, I'm not going to unconvert them. They're fine. It doesn't matter in terms of that. But I think what amazes me is with the nationalist Christians, the fundamentalist Christians, the Southern Christians, a lot, they forget that there's two parts to the Bible, and really, the New Testament wipes out the Old Testament. It really does. I mean, think about it. An eye for an eye in the Old Testament, turn the other cheek in the New Testament. And that's just one example that goes on and on.
Although one could argue, I mean, Christopher Hitchens would argue this too, is that it seemingly looks like the Old Testament was the harsher, much harsher, but
Right.
there are some harsh things in the New Testament. For example, if you don't believe me, you're going to burn in hell, and it's just in that in itself, it's like a threat on all human beings.
Well, I understand that, but still,
I mean, we're not getting. This isn't a religious,
Oh, no,
argument
no.
or discussion. I'm
No,
just
no,
saying
no,
that
no, no. But what
there
I
are a
would
lot of
say-
problems with religion all the way through all the
No question.
the
But I would
three
say this,
major religions.
and I've said it before, so I'll say it again. If a person were to get whatever version of the Bible they use, I'm still fond of the King James version. But in the King James version, there were, there's the regular all black print, and then they came out with one where whatever Jesus said was in red. And if you were to just take those red parts, right,
Right.
and live your life that way, you would be a pretty good person, and you would be pretty good for others around you. But what happens is we go right back to people interpreting it for you.
And it violates that type of thinking as much as it's a good type of thinking. It violates what's happening in evolution, because whoever is able to sustain him or herself within an environment, it's a certain view of strength,
Right.
And the opposite is occurring when you're saying, turn the other cheek or this or that. By the way, I don't see too many Christians who like Trump turning the other cheek. They'll make some kind of, excuse for saying that basically the semantics
again,
of turning the other cheek or
there
something
are
different.
there are branches of Christianity that are very liberal and very broad based. Now, again, we're complex human beings. Right now, the Pope, the new Pope, Villanova graduate, shout out Wildcats. He's saying some good things, but there's still the idea of the restrictions that are on the Catholic Church that don't make a whole lot of sense. And again, basically, as you pointed out earlier, Brian, a lot of it comes down to men controlling. And it certainly hasn't worked out real well, necessarily. But there is this thing. Now, the other thing that's fascinating, and anybody tonight, I'd love to see your response to this. This one really I struggle with. I believe that Donald Trump is one of the most whiny people ever to rise to a top position. And yet, his followers, the cult, he's a man of strength and honor.
Right.
And
That's what they say.
how the hell do they see it? I mean, I got it. I hate you so much. I don't want to be you. I got that. I got, this week, I keep some excuse me, some Trumpers on my personal page just to kind of see what they're thinking or not thinking, as the case may
Right.
be. And I mean, they're just saying these things that aren't even true. Um, he's the economy is. One would say the economy is so much better now than it was under Biden. Huh? What?
Yeah.
Huh?
What grocery store are
Or
you shopping at?
or one of the big things, one of the Trumpers that I keep around for my entertainment, he is so convinced about the auto pen. Who cares?
Right.
Well, it's just
And you've seen that he has Biden's picture. Well, he doesn't have Biden's
Yeah, he put
picture.
right. No, you're
put
right.
the auto pen there. They're
Now,
just
is that not petty?
petty.
I mean, petty, 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 petty. And what we find, as I say, he has the tendency. I really think he is this. The King Midas legend. I really think. Well, actually, the Hollies had a song like that. King Midas in reverse. He really is a King Midas in reverse. Everything he touches, every single thing he touches, turns to shit.
Right.
Other people say, and that actually, and this I'm starting to agree with more and more and more, is that Trump, as the leader of the cult has nothing to offer other than destroying what's already there.
Right.
What have they proposed? That, okay, we'll eliminate, let's see, we'll eliminate this, we'll eliminate that, we'll cut that, we don't need that. And a lot of things, of course, haven't even hit yet. There's going to be
Right. It will be hitting, though, in 2026, correct?
Yeah, and again, then we get to if and can we have an election? Education is going to be right now American education is in so much trouble, and every day that Trump is there, and every day that the leader that he believes the leader of the educational community of America should be the wife of the owner of the WWE. I mean, come on, what does that what does that prove? It proves that. Well, it proves that she gave a lot of money, and I think Trump. I think Trump probably idolizes Vince McMahon a little bit.
And by the way, again, I always go back to the Russian thing, Dave, but this is a good representation of what happened in Soviet society and what happens currently in Russian society, just in general with bosses in general. There's an old saying, "I'm the boss, you're the idiot," and that applied in schools, and it also applies, in the workforce in Russia. And it's the idea that the boss, first of all, to get that job, it's usually through a connection, which is what's going to be happening more and more here, rather than through merit. And then basically those who are underneath of this middle management, these are your engineers in Russia. They have no power. They're smarter, but they're making less money, and they just have to do it. And this is my fear. What's going to happen with what is happening, but it's going to be much, much worse. You're going to start seeing the people who are in power are the ones who are like, the classic Russian case, and then people like us are going to be below them. And threat and violence is just enough to take care of the business.
And I certainly can't argue with you on that point. In the back of my mind when I'm thinking about employment, is we really don't know where we're going to go with AI. But I've been working with it, quite a bit. And it's like everything else. It's just a tool. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. But since the control of it will be in the technocrats and the oligarchy, I cannot see it being used for good.
And by the way, let's again on that Russian theme. What's going on right now in Russia? Most of the technology. I mean, we think of Russia as they're behind in technology, but they're kind of strange. Where they do excel is when they are in surveillance of the population. So they're forcing them. But they have one thing called gosuslugi, which is government services, and you have to register for the draft on your phone. Everything is done on the phone right now, and you cannot make a search without your search information going to the government. And you have cameras everywhere in every major city in Russia. They've taken over the technology to oppress the opposition. And this is the worry about AI here, is that they already Grok, that is a Trumpist type of search engine here.
What's interesting is there's not One, what am I looking for here? Technical head, or Bezos, Musk, Zuckerberg. They control. I mean, think about it. Musk has X, formerly Twitter. Zuckerberg has Facebook. They can do whatever they want, pretty much. Trump has Truth Social, and the list goes on and on. So what do liberals get? We get Blue Sky, we get Substack, and not that they're inefficient, but they're not. The numbers are on Facebook and X because they were prior to, and the numbers. I was talking to a political guy down here, and he said, "Yeah, I'm still on X." He said, "I have to because some of the people I need to reach, are on there. All information is for sale in America, absolutely." Now, of course, I always laugh in America. We don't, all the isms are bad, right? Communism, bad.
Right.
Socialism, bad. But what is it? Capitalism is good, and that made on its merit. Both communism and socialism are better than capitalism. Now, none of them turn out right because they're perverted, and it appears that the socialist countries and the communist countries have not really emerged victorious. There for a while, right about 25
Although
years ago.
one could argue that China is on their way to victory.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to.
You can't disregard China.
That's what I want to get to right now. 25 years ago, the thinking was that democracy had kind of won, right?
Right.
Look at the world today; it isn't.
When the Berlin Wall went down, we won.
Yeah, it was basically, well, you know what, and a lot of that is symbolic. Okay, I have to admit, I thought that was good that it came down. I didn't think it would happen in my lifetime. Also, I mean, even human beings are symbols. When Obama won and then won a second time, I thought maybe we had turned a corner. Obviously, we hadn't. So it's the idea right now that there seems to be, if you look at the world right now, fascism is in, authoritarianism is in, power is in, and then coupled with this idea of using the technology. Now, one of the things that surprised me, I was very fortunate. I got to spend 10 days in Cuba. You don't see a policeman.
Sounds like John Reed, 10 days in Cuba.
That's why I was read a book and a movie about it, man. But you know what's funny? I didn't see a policeman the whole time I was there. I only saw a couple Army guards, and I'm going like, what? What is this country? Well, when I got into the streets and talking to people, they said every block has a laid out informant system, so they don't need.
Right.
Their people are doing their own policing. Somebody earlier tonight, as it just comes in, you really can't talk about Donald Trump anymore without talking about his Nosferatu looking buddy, Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller, I think, now let me, I don't know if I could win this argument. I would say in certain ways, Stephen Miller is even worse than Trump. And what I mean is, I'm not sure Trump is evil. I'm really not. I'm not. I think he's a lot of things, but I'm not. I don't even know. I know that Stephen Miller is evil, and he's the worst kind. He's
all of them. They're all. I mean, get Miller, Bannon, Roger Stone, Paul Manafort. These people they're just evil people, and
yes.
you can just by the way they talk. Like, I think Roger Stone and Stephen Miller are kind of the same in the sense that everything they say is it's just plain fucking evil.
Well, I would agree. And the other thing is with Miller, which we were talking about the other day here, was in the first go round, right? Mm-hmm. Miller did what Peter Thiel does. Peter Thiel, you don't see him out and active, right? But he lays in the shadows and kind of deals out the money, and Vance is his boy. I mean, Peter Thiel will be running the country if Vance ever does get to be president. But this time, Miller's kind of out. So, what happened? I would be interested to know that. We'll never know because they don't tell the truth. But
Right. That's another point. You'll never know what's true anymore because everything they say
well,
is a lie.
you don't now. Okay, I'll give you an example. Two areas that I get a lot of Facebook posts on. One is sports, because I follow sports fairly regularly, and the other is music, because I follow music. And Brian, I'm telling you, I mean, there are so much inaccuracy about that, and you really don't have to be that smart to see through it, because they'll say shocking. They use these words like Andy Reid was going to refuse to play in the Super Bowl. This one story had, because he got so upset. Go away. Or and the other thing, if anybody out there can do this for me, I would love it. A lot of the AI pictures, not of the political, but of the music people, Dylan, Jagger, Springsteen, they're all crying. I mean, I don't know. Why are they crying? I mean, they now the new one that came out is Dolly Parton, George Strait. I don't know who else. It was a whole group of them. Willie refused. We're going to band together and do a concert. That's never going to happen. One was the Rolling Stones, the Who, McCartney, Dylan were going to tour together one last time and then leave it's so obvious, but it's such a waste of time. And I don't know what people get out of it. I mean, is it just the idea of duping people? I mean, there's no money.
Dopamine, that's it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Brian. I mean, that's exactly it. I made this many people believe so and so and such and such. Right. Well, look, the other thing that I'm moving a lot more into, and you were ahead of me.
And you have the pictures too. Don't forget those, David.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm just going to do this quickly. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit, I'm going to talk each week about that. I'm going to add something to our mix. And I'm going to pick what I call the pop-up politics story of the week. And basically what I'm finding, and I think it is true, currently, pop culture is politics and politics is pop culture. It's been coming that way, but with Trump, he is officially the first pop culture president. How do we say that? Without The Apprentice.
Agree 100%.
Without The Apprentice, he is not. So each week we'll try to focus a little bit on a pop culture story. And of course, the one that is breaking, it is huge, is Bad Bunny. Now, there are many people in MAGA did not know the difference between Bad Bunny, Easter Bunny, Bugs Bunny, whatever. But the short version is this. Bad Bunny right now is probably the most popular young entertainer in the world. He is Puerto Rican, and he sings in Spanish. He did not tour the United States this time because of ICE. And the NFL last week said that he will be providing halftime entertainment for the Super Bowl, and the MAGA world just exploded. They are so stupid that they don't understand that Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens.
The Commonwealth of the United States.
And then they don't understand. I think it was eight or nine of the Super Bowl shows have been non-Americans, whether it was the Rolling Stones or whether it was Shakira. And of course, they're still reeling from Kanye's show. But anyway, that's become like this huge issue. Well, people are dying, and we've got all these problems, and we're going to fight over that. Now, what's going to be interesting? I would love to know. Yes, Jeff, it was pretty good. Parts were so-so, but the one thing I thought was good was, of course, I don't know if he wrote it himself or scripted out, but Bad Bunny, when he said there's, in essence, he said this, a lot of concern, I speak in Spanish, but you've got 4 months to learn Spanish so you can understand what my songs are about. I thought that was a great response, right? Now, we haven't heard from Trump yet, but we have heard from Kristi Noem, and here was her response. We will send ICE to the Super Bowl. Now, what does that mean? Does she have any idea how expensive a Super Bowl ticket is? There will not be one, does that mean, or does it mean they'll come in and swoop down and take all the immigrants that are serving food out? Or does it mean they'll arrest Bad Bunny and put Kid Rock on the stage in his place? What does that mean, Kristi? And there you are. Veg has it right to the moon. So, again, pop culture is politics. Politics is pop culture. and you can't really dismiss it because it's so much a force right now. Now, I sent you some pictures, Brian. I don't know if you'll be able to put them on.
I can, absolutely.
Put one on, and I'll just what we're gonna do here, people, is as often as possible, and we're gonna use stills instead of video. I'll post the video somewhere else. But the idea of it, I'm gonna take you on a little trip today that I took in Washington D.C. Now let's set the stage. Washington D.C., nation's capital. It's all kind of happening here. Now, let's put the first picture up, Brian.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, so now everybody, you're going to take a walk with me. Okay, so as soon as Brian puts it up. Okay, can you get it a little bit? Well, okay. We're getting off the metro here at National Archives, which is on Pennsylvania Avenue, this is a Sunday afternoon. And what's missing, Brian?
People.
This is an occurrence everywhere. This is not extreme. This is not unusual. People are not coming out. So you start with that. Next picture, please.
Sure. Just get rid of this
one. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Pennsylvania Avenue on a Sunday in October. We're walking toward the Capitol. And what don't you see, Brian?
People.
This is D.C. Now, why don't you see the people? Well, there are a number of reasons. And we'll talk about them in a moment. But this is what you're seeing. This is not, in fact, it's not as bad as COVID, but it's close.
Right.
What do we got next? Where are we going next? I did this, I forget. Okay, here, this is, most of you probably somewhat familiar with this. This is the Friendship Statue. It's on the National Mall. It's the last inch of space on the mall before you move to Congressional Grounds. Of course, the Capitol building's in the back. This was up, and it had a permit to last through the week. And the National Park Service came and took it down. They destroyed it as they took it down deliberately. And the artists collective, with nobody knows, it's like the best secret in DC, who's funding this and who's doing it, they were able to put it back up. So everybody's betting on, look at that guy. He's there with him.
Yeah.
Everybody's going back up, betting on when that will be taken down. So remember this, Trump ordered it taken down. That's fact one. Number two, it was taken down illegally. But what wasn't taken?
Trump, Jesus Christ.
Now this wasn't what happened. So you leave the National Mall, and we're now headed toward Constitution Avenue. This is the Department of Labor. The first of these was actually on the National Mall. Well, yes, visible on the National Mall. It was at the Department of Agriculture, but this is the Department of Labor, and America's President Labor First. Well, no, the only way that could be accurate is me first. But of course, this hasn't been tampered with, right? So we have the statue down. That hasn't been tampered with. So now we're going to continue our walk. We've gone about 5 blocks. And to my chagrin, this is what I discovered. Now, I was there Friday. No, I'm sorry. I was there Thursday. So between Thursday and now, again, the National Park Service, we're not making them the bad guys, but they're under orders. They came in and just there were 4 tents. 3, they just took down and took everything that they had in those tents, confiscated it. And again, there was a standing order that it was allowed and permitted. So what you see here is Donald Trump ignoring the law and people following that. Now, this was a group called Flare. It started on May 1st with a group called Mayday. And they split and did their thing, and Flare decided to stay there. So they're still being staffed by people 24 hours a day. And if you see the chairs right there, they brought those in today. but there were 3 tents. One was a distribution center, one was for posters and design, and the third was a planning center, and they're taken down. Now, the one tent that remains there, I think I got a picture of it coming up, I think.
Okay. Oh, this is the next one, just so you know.
Oh, yeah, well, this is one of the signs that they put up, and it's suppression of the opposition. It's illegal. It's un-American. It's unconstitutional. It's everything you can say. I mean, there's no difference. There's really no difference, honestly, between somebody breaking in your house and taking your possessions, right? Than there is what they did there at the behest of Donald Trump. Same thing. Okay. Donald Trump, the mob boss, Donald Trump, the criminal, whatever you want to call it. Okay, this is the one that's left. And this is how they also play the game, Brian. So this is veterans, right? Mm-hmm. So the 1/10 was veterans, the other 3, and they work together, and share food and share things. But they did that, we're all convinced, to try to split the 2 groups, right? In other words, dissension. Well, they wanted Flair to get mad at the veterans because they could say it isn't working that way. The veterans are trying to get their permission amended to include Flair. So Donald Trump, if you're not breaking anybody, nobody's giving up that's out there. It's not going to happen. And this again is the idea that one of the key things that the veterans group is pushing is if you are ordered to do an unconstitutional thing, you should not do it. And they've got numbers, they've got people working. Now in this tent, this actually started in August. So you had the May Day running it from May to about May, June, probably about end of June, early July. Then Flair took it over and ran it. And then this came in August. And since August, what do we got? August, September, October, right? There have been more than 200 veterans have been there working. Some staying all night. And this is, and of course, this is at Union Station. It's right out front. And there's a big debate down here about, is that the best place for them? I'm on the side that I think it is, because, it's very visible in terms of that. You're not going to get on the White House because, of course, there's the other thing that, and we'll talk more about that at another show, but they actually came in there and violated the law again by taking the 24/7 peace vigil down and took everything. Now, that's bad, but what they've done with the homeless encampments are even worse. What they've done there, think about this. It's everybody kind of, if you need to close your eyes or however you put yourself in a thinking position. You're homeless and all that goes with that, but you found a community. A few tents have gone up. You're there. You feel relatively safe. You take turns guarding, etc. And this was your day to go somewhere and do something. And in comes ICE and others, and they take every single thing there and burn it and destroy it. Family pictures, whatever is there is gone, not to be recovered. This is Donald Trump's government. This is what's going on a daily basis. You have this. And so we go back where we started. Why aren't people there? Okay, there's a number of things. First of all, the economy is not good. Okay, prices are going up. We know that. Secondly, in DC, every single person is concerned about their job. Every single person, because of Trump. If you're in government work, or even if you're not in government work, right? Restaurants are down somewhere between 40 and 60%. The joke, the macabre joke is that, our workers didn't come in today, but it doesn't matter. We're not going to have any customers anyway.
Right.
Now, on top of that, now you have the government shutdown, which means, and then you've got Trump saying that during this, I'm going to take advantage of this shutdown to fire more people. The housing market is collapsing here. Not up to the rich. I mean, they'll do fine. But I'm talking about. So I guess my question would be, and he wouldn't answer it, if I could get Donald Trump right now at the end of the show and said, Donald, what the hell are you doing? Why? Why are you doing? Now you wouldn't get it. There is no way that Donald Trump should be president, and yet he is. And because of the situation we find ourselves in, that few moments we spent in D.C. is going to be played out across the country if we don't figure out a way to stop him.
Right, and it's important advice to take, folks, because this is real. It's not something you just watch like a movie and say, okay, well, it happens over there. No, it's
well, and you know what, Brian? I got to admit, I was guilty a little bit of that in the beginning. I just didn't think. Here's where I was completely wrong. I didn't think stupid could run an authoritarian government, but Donald Trump has proved me wrong. And I really, a number of us, and I'm in the, if you had told me that America would be, and it was, we've been into it now, what, 6 months? If you had told me America could turn from the limited democracy that we had, but non-functional in some ways, it would turn to a Russia in 3 months, I said, you're absolutely insane. It's happened. It's happened. And we don't know the ending. We don't know the ending.
We don't know the ending.
And
nothing is guaranteed.
And it doesn't, and again,
maybe those of us on our side who have a Pollyanna viewpoint about things, like somehow, the Lone Ranger is going to come in and solve this problem at the last minute. Maybe we need to wake up to the reality of that, there is no one to save you. You're
except
have to
yourself,
save your own
if you
ass.
can.
Right. If you can.
If you
or
can.
At least take a tooth out, But
and again,
that's it.
There is, at least in my way of thinking, there is honor and righteousness in figuring out what is the right thing and then following up on it. So when people say, "Oh, it's no," you don't know if you're going to win, but what's the old saying? You cannot win if you do not play.
Right. You got to put your cards down.
Exactly. And everybody's cards could be a little bit different. You don't have to go out and protest. You can send money. You can write letters. You can be a sounding board for people who are, we're seeing that a lot.
There are many ways to get involved.
And not everybody wants to do what you and I do in this.
Well,
there's a lot of people out. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there who wish we weren't doing it. And that's how I want to end on my part tonight. Let's go back to Bad Bunny for a moment, and Trump, and America, and MAGA, and this show. If you don't like what we say, you don't have to watch, right? If you don't like Bad Bunny at halftime, you go get an extra beer. Why does the right continue to do it? It's book banning week, book banning month. If you don't want your child to read a book, fine. Let them read something else. Right. But it's never, the right does not work it that way. The right wants to dictate to you how you live, where you live, why, all these things that they really shouldn't have. Let's do an abortion. If you don't want to have an abortion, don't get an abortion, right? If you believe that, ketamine or marijuana or whatever is the end of civilization, don't smoke it. It's not like anybody's forcing you to do these things, but what the right is doing is saying, we don't like it and you can't do it. So I
think just described the history of Russia there in the last 3 minutes.
I know.
Okay.
And again,
I soon become our history.
Brian, every day, now we'll go, are you more optimistic? I'll go first tonight. Usually you go first.
Absolutely.
I am less optimistic tonight for a number of reasons, but one is just that. I used to dismiss you, not you the person, but your thoughts. Right. America has this history of democracy, and Russia never had it. Now, you and I've talked about that for years. And I have to admit, we're a lot damn closer to Russia than I ever imagined we could be. And we're only going to get closer unless we figure out a way to stop Donald Trump.
Well said, Dave. Well, Dave, it's been wonderful talking with you, and it's great to see everybody get involved in the show.
Yeah, I know you got a minute left. Is there anything, comments that we should come up with?
Most people are kind of agreeing with us, and I think
it's, I think it's.
But that's good, though. I think that people are becoming more realistic because we're not getting things done. Yeah, it's
I'm looking at what Jeff said, Curry, and he said, I don't think I'd ever heard of Bad Bunny until this thing happened. Well, that's another thing which is interesting. Trump being Trump a lot of times, or the MAGA being MAGA, they stir things up that I would assume. I'm going to guess and say the majority of Americans over age 40, maybe even over age 30, did not know who Bad Bunny was.
He was on Colbert's show, but that's about it.
Well, no. Well,
you're right. Most people, I didn't even know really who he was even after the show.
Well, one other thing is he loves, now this is interesting, he loves professional wrestling. And he's actually wrestled, like in WrestleMania. So that's going to be interesting because that crowd tends to be MAGA, but they like Bad Bunny. But now they're being told they can't like Bad Bunny. So the best thing to do, Donald, go away, just keep walking and just get as far from the White House as you can.
All right, Dave, considering that you said that, be very careful. I would lock your doors and batten down the hatches.
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
Okay, you'll be here. Dave, it's good speaking to you, everybody. Thank you.
Take care.
And we'll be back. Should be back next week. All right. Adios.